Have you ever stopped to think about the fans behind a band? What is it about the music that keeps fans coming back for more? Or is there more? My name is Renae Lipsmeyer, and I am the host of this podcast, The Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. Each week, a fellow DMB fan joins the show to discuss their journey with the band. Welcome to the Space Between Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of a band that has been playing music for 34 years now. If you're just now tuning in for the very first time, first of all, thank you so much for tuning in. This music has been the soundtrack of our lives for so many years that it's really hard to remember a time where Dave Matthews Band was not around. Every episode, a fan of Dave Matthews Band comes on to share their journey, their experiences, their why they're still listening to this band or why they chose to listen to it in the first place. So this episode is like every episode. I have a guest on the show to share his journey. So tell us who you are, where in the world are you, and tell us something cool about you.
So where do I start? Well, thank you. First off, thank you so much for having me on today. I've been looking forward to this for a few months now. I know we've been kind of going back and forth and finally been able, finally we're able to make today work. So thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited. A little bit about myself and my 30-year journey of Dave. So name is Alex Mavros, born and raised in Las Vegas. My folks moved to Vegas back in 73. And I made my introduction into this world in 76. So I just turned 49 a few months ago. And I love Vegas. I mean, it's such an amazing place to live. You know, you've got the Strip, you've got everything surrounding Vegas. And the great thing is you can indulge in what Vegas has to offer. And you can also live your life without doing any of that. You know, what I tell everybody now is really the only time that I really go to the Strip is when I go to the Golden Knights games. Growing up, we didn't have any of that. In fact, and this will be something that we'll talk about a little bit more as we go. Dave doesn't really like to come to Vegas. Now, he's been here a handful of times, but I don't think Vegas is one of his favorite places to go, at least not with the whole crew. But we'll talk about that as we go on.
Yeah, I have to know why.
Yeah, well, I have my thoughts on that, and I'll share that. But
yes,
we didn't have the sports teams, we didn't have all the dining and the nightclubs and all the excitement, everything that we have today. So Vegas has really grown as an epicenter of everything, and we've had to, recreate ourselves, because if we were really just a gaming town, I think we would have died a long time ago. So we had to adapt, and now we have so much stuff here. So we're that opportunity for people to come in and just have such a great time. But, a little bit about myself, as I mentioned, born and raised here in Vegas. I've got a 4-year-old daughter and an amazing wife. We're still working on making them Dave fans, as we discussed a little bit. But Dave is my number one. Dave is my number one group. I've been a Dave fan, as you just mentioned, for 30 years. First ever, and hopefully I'm not stepping on your toes by sharing my first ever show.
Do it.
May 19th, 1995, I was going to a Grateful Dead show with some friends of mine. Was not a Grateful Dead fan, was going for the, not for the show, more so for the experience, to kind of be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I still remember driving out there, and my buddy's like, yeah, there's some band named Dave Matthews Band or something like that opening for him. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. Well, we'll get in there and we'll check it out. And I still remember walking into Sam Boyd Stadium and hearing Best of What's Around. And I felt like I just transcended. I mean, it was just such an amazing sound. I don't remember what part of the set we were in, if they had just started, if they were in the middle. I know they played a handful more songs, but I was hooked. To this day, that's one of my favorite songs, as every Dave fan has their handful of songs that are played on the radio that might not necessarily be their favorites anymore because they've heard them 5 billion times. That one is still one of my favorite songs of all time.
It's such a good one. I think it's classic, which means it will never be old. So that was literally the night you heard of them, was on the way to see another band, and Dave Matthews Band just happened to be open for them. And you're like, okay, never heard of them, but cool, let's check them out.
So, the Grateful Dead show was, again, more just the experience of just being there, just, kind of everything that you see, everything that you partake in, just have a good time being there.
Yeah.
Leaving there, I didn't care. I mean, that was, I believe, the last show I think that Jerry Garcia did before he passed away. So I'm glad I was able to be there for that. But no, I had it wasn't like I went out and bought any CDs of the Grateful Dead. No downloads back then. It was literally
No, I think we
CD.
were, what year was that again?
95.
So we probably were still
AM
somewhere in the middle of
95,
tapes
still
and CD.
cassette tapes. There was still
Yeah.
cassette tapes. So yeah. So I just went all in on Dave. I don't remember exactly if I went out and bought a CD that day or how quickly I did, but I know they came back and played Thomas and Mack. Now, here's my story of why I think Dave might not be a huge fan of Vegas. So he comes back, and it's funny. I actually did I'm in Toastmasters, public speaking, and so I actually did a speech a couple weeks ago about my love for Dave and all the
No
shows and the
way.
experiences. So it was kind of cool, a little bit in preparation for today's podcast.
Yes.
But one of the things that I did, and in the PowerPoint presentation that I made, is I did this, and this has some of the tickets from. I have quite a few of them over the years, and I've been to, I think, 75 plus shows. Now I know I should know exact, but I don't. I know there's some that I forgot about, but I know when I go through and I kind of add them up, I'm at 75 plus. So I have some of these stubs from way back then. That's how I still remember some of the exact dates.
Oh,
He came back in November of 96, and this was at Thomas and Mack. And I remember waiting in line. I ended up being in like the third row, but he was still fairly new in 96. Now he
yes.
was playing like an 18,000 seat arena, and it was pretty empty in there. Now I didn't care if there was two other people there.
Right. You were there.
I was there and I had an amazing time. So I didn't care who else was there, but there weren't really that many people there because nobody really knew him, especially on the West Coast. Now, if this would have been on the East Coast, probably would have sold out. But in Vegas,
Right.
people still didn't really know who he was.
Right.
So
Right.
there weren't that many people there. And this is truly what I believe. I think that's why he didn't come to Vegas very often. I mean, we literally have never been a part of the regular touring schedule. When he would come, and he came to a show that they had out at San Boyd, it was an outdoor festival called Bay Goose. He played that with Dave Matthew and friends, and he would come play at the Aladdin or Planet Hollywood. Dave and Tim. He would do some of these one-off shows,
Oh,
but even the ones that he's done the last couple of years, when he did it right before COVID at the Cosmo, that was like the last show before the world shut down.
yeah.
And then also the one that he did over at Park MGM last year, those were all Dave and Tim. And so DMB never really makes it to Vegas in full force, which it is what it is. That gives me an opportunity to travel. So it's
Yeah.
all good. I mean, maybe it saved my bank account because if I was going to see him 30 years over the amount of times that I've seen him, or would see him if he came to Vegas, maybe he saved me a few bucks, but it's given me that
Thanks,
opportunity
Dave.
to fly around. Well, and it worked out too. From 98 to '06, I worked for America West Airlines.
Oh,
And so I
awesome.
flew for free.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
the bad thing was I only made literally less than $7 an hour. For those 8 years that I was there, I made $6.93 an hour. Now, this is somebody who was doing the weight and balance on the plane, kind of an important role.
Yes.
$7 an hour, but I got free flights. So there was opportunity. I went to Woodstock in 99, saw Dave out there
Dude, you went to
at
Woodstock
Woodstock.
99?
I was literally there from Thursday night, which they had George Clinton. It was his birthday. So they had this big birthday party inside a hangar all the way through Monday morning through the fires Sunday night, and
Wow.
literally crashing out Sunday night and being like, if we don't wake up in the morning, we've had a good life. It was pretty
Whoa.
crazy.
We could
But it was,
talk about that a whole episode. I have so much just because of the documentary. I wasn't there, but then the documentary came out on Netflix or whatever. And I was like, holy shit, those
yeah.
people were crazy there.
And I have about, I don't know, 5 or 10 rolls of pictures, like when you actually had to get them developed. So
Oh,
I had
yeah.
a bunch of disposable cameras that I brought with me, came home, and with some of the content that was in those cameras, I was a little surprised that they developed them all. They probably kept some of that themselves. But I mean, literally, it was an experience. It was awesome. It was so much fun. Was there with some buddies of mine. I flew out there with a couple of guys that I worked with, and then about 6 or 7 guys from Vegas. We're supposed to have a minivan, but they didn't have any minivans, so they gave them a 15-passenger van, and they pulled
Okay.
out one of the seats out of the 15-passenger van and drove that across country to the show. We met up with them, drove in, and we were there for the whole weekend. So that was
Wow.
just an experience in itself. It was just obviously just the feeling that you get, and then once you start hearing, that album was Under the Table and Dreaming. But then I also got Remember Two Things. So I had those two. And again, at that time, there's not the opportunity to be able to get out and download music or stream music. So
Nope.
everything we did was, the one of the really cool things that I remember once you started being able to burn CDs and do that was Dave's allowing of people to tape as long as they shared it. They didn't sell it. They didn't try and make money off it. As long as they would share that content, he was open to it. And I
Yeah.
really love that because you got to hear shows that you couldn't attend, you couldn't go to. So,
Right.
I had, a stack of CDs of just, that one fan would share with me, and then I would get from another person, and I would share. So it just became that love of the music. And to this day, my favorite songs are the older songs. I
Hmm.
still love everything he comes out with.
Of
Nothing,
course.
wouldn't stop that for the world. But the core songs of my life during, college and after college years and different relationships. And, as you talked about so many different things that you go through in your life, there's songs that connect to those different parts of your life. So when you go to a show now, and because he still plays so many different songs, especially if you go to a gorge and you get 25 different songs every night, you're getting that whole lifespan of Dave shows. So it brings you back to my first show at, when he opened for the Dead, or every show. There's bits and pieces that you remember for the most part. Most shows, there's some of
Yeah.
those shows that
They're a little blurry.
we won't go there, but you remember the experiences, and it just brings you back. It's hard to explain that to somebody who's not a fan or who hasn't been a fan
Mm.
time. That feeling that you get that just literally brings you back to that experience in your life when you were listening to that album, or you were a part of that show, or the cool thing that happened when you went there. So it's such a great experience. And again, it's hard to share that with people that haven't had that experience themselves.
How did you run across these people? How did you find people that were slashing out CDs? How in the world do you get hooked into that? Because I was not part of that. So I'm always so intrigued of like, how did you know what to do?
Yeah, so part of it was just people in town. There's a handful of my friends here in town that were Dave fans, and other people from different places. And you would go to a show and you just interact. It was funny. There was an Instagram video last week of, there was a Dave show where some guys got in a fight, and Dave's like, "Get the fuck out," and there over the years there have been maybe 3 to 5 of those that you see, and that's the rarity.
Yes.
Very, very rarely does that ever happen.
Right.
99.999% of the people that are there are happy, are having a great time, are enjoying the concert. And it doesn't matter what direction you go in, everybody's cordial, everybody's loving, everybody's happy. I don't ever, whether I do real estate here in Las Vegas. And one thing that I've always been true to is I don't put religion and I don't put politics on my page. The great thing about Dave is you have fans of every which way. I don't care what political affiliation you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care who, what, why, where, how. You love Dave. You love the songs. You love everything about that. And you don't go into those things. You don't have to discuss
Right.
politics. You don't have
No.
to discuss religion. You discuss the music. You enjoy the atmosphere. You enjoy just having a great time. And so when you would tailgate before a game, that's what you're doing. You're just
Yeah.
having you're not before a game, before a
I
concert.
call it the game. They're my
The
team, so you
game, the
can say
concert,
game.
right? It's all the same. So
Go team.
yeah, you're tailgating before the show, and it didn't matter whether it was, somebody just walking down the aisle. And that's a great thing about, if you're at a Raiders and a Dolphins game, you got two opposing teams, right? You might
Right.
not have
Right.
good blood. But with Dave's show, everybody loves Dave and you're all there for the same reason. So
Yes.
everybody that's walking through, you're offering drinks, you're offering shots. Maybe there's other things that are being offered, but you're just having a great time. And so that was really
Yes.
how it started, just creating those relationships. Beyond that was Napster, right? I don't know if you
Oh
ever
gosh, yes. I mean,
remember,
it's hard
you
to remember those years.
yeah. So you download that and you learn how to burn some of the CDs and do that kind of stuff, and then you share. So there was just, and I know by saying some of these things I'm aging myself, but it doesn't seem like that was 20, 25, 30 years ago. It feels like it
I
was 10
know.
years ago. So when I say that, and like my nieces who are 20 years old, like no clue about downloading or no
Never
clue
heard of
about,
Napster.
yeah, you know, I show my daughter a tape and she has no clue what that is.
Mm,
But it's great to have gone through all of those.
absolutely.
I will say I miss the days of knowing when an album drop was. And they used to be on Tuesdays. And I would literally, do whether you could get it on Monday night or you'd have to go on Tuesday to
Hmm.
buy the CD from whether it was Best Buy or Warehouse or Tower Records or Virgin or any of those different music outlets. I miss going and actually buying the CD and then having to rub the CD down at, like the edge of a table to be able to get that plastic off and then
Yes.
undo it and open it up and put it in. And it was such an experience. It's so different than it is
Hmm.
today. And I miss that experience of being able to have that CD and then taking it with you in your CD player and hoping it doesn't skip. It's just a different experience. And I love the streaming. It's so much easier. I love the Pandora or the Spotify or these different
Right.
outlets that we have now, but it was so different back then. I miss it.
It is very different now. I mean, we have channels, Sirius XM channel 30. They're doing such a good job now of playing some of the old rare things that the fans really do want to hear. We don't want to just hear the hits because there is such a large catalog when it comes to Dave Matthews Band, and there's not a song we don't really want to hear. And so they give us that ability to kind of float through time and go back to 95 or 2001 or whatever, and just feel all the different decades of this band, and that's so much fun. So yeah, we've got it really easy. We're not having to dig or ask people like, "Hey, do you have a CD that I can send you a blank envelope and a stamp?" It's just so crazy. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy being in the time where it is easy, but I agree with you. There's some nostalgia behind all of those things, and as you were going through opening the CD, I was like, man, some of those CDs were really not easy to get into. I remember getting
Yeah.
so frustrated with so many of them that I would end up just opening them completely wrong. Look, I mean, this is how old school I am. I have a CD right next to me. And so there is still something about it that is cool to open up and read the jackets inside, and all of the pictures that they allowed us to see. I mean, look at this picture. Look at that inside Some Devil. There's so much good stuff. And I have tapes still. Do you? Do you
Oh,
have
yeah.
all of your things? Yeah.
They're still in the garage, in that drawer that had them all nicely, organized in there, that had like the three drawers, and
Oh,
you had them
yeah.
all in there. So yeah. I mean, I still remember Some Devil when I was going up to a retreat up in Fresno, California, and I had my CD case that had my 20 different CDs in there. And it's funny when they talk about nowadays with, texting and driving and being on your phone, and some of those memes where like they're like, "Oh, we weren't distracted, and we've got literally like our 200, folder open on our lap, trying to pull it out, holding the steering wheel with our leg while we're
Yep.
changing the CD." Or, if we had our 10 disc changer, we got an opportunity to put 7 Daves in there, and then maybe you put in, Jay-Z and a couple other ones in there. But,
Yeah,
the majority of your 10 disc changer was all Dave, because you had
absolutely.
the live one, the studio, the other live one, the 2 disc live, Luther College.
Yes, yes.
You had
I
all
miss
of them in
yeah,
there.
I miss that, but there's playlists now that are kind of like those 5 disc or 10 disc changers, which I did have one. And I remember I think I only had a 5 disc changer, I think. Memories are hard, but I remember how cool thinking that I had this, like it
Oh,
was a big deal. I was like, "Oh, no more changing out CDs for me. No, no, that's from the past. It just keeps on going for 5 CDs, and that'll get you through quite a road trip." So there's some really fun memories behind all of that, but it is easy now just to press a button. I mean,
it's so easy. But I had a red GMC step side that I had my 10 disc Kenwood changer underneath the
oh shit,
seat,
yeah.
and my bass tube behind my regular cab seat. I mean, is those things, those memories that bring that back. And when you would go on a road trip, and you could just continuously play the songs, the CDs, and it's different, but the memories are good. That time frame when I had my truck and the bass tube and the amps under my seat, there
Yes.
was the Puff Daddy and
Yes.
Mace and Jay-Z. So I had a good mixture of those different groups. I'm also a huge Jimmy Buffett fan.
Oh
So I
yeah.
got my Dave, I got my Jimmy, I had, at that time, and Biggie. So there's quite
There were
diverse
yeah.
musical and, country as well. Huge Garth fan. So I'm really in a lot of different music genres, but if I had to rank them, Dave is far and away up here. And then you get down here, you've got, Garth, you've got Sublime, you've got, Jimmy. So you've got, Dave's easily tops, but you do have a lot of other music too. One of the stories, before I forget, so I don't know if you can see it, but I had to wear my special shirt today. So
I can see what it says.
this is my
Yeah.
Dave shirt, right? And this
Celebrate we
was a
will.
gift to me
Yep.
from a friend of mine before we went to the Gorge a few years ago. And I've been to the Gorge 3 times. It was like once in like '01, '03, like early on,
Mhm.
camped those 2 times. And then the last time we went, which is a couple years ago, we stayed in Sunbrook. It was like the townhomes that are about a half hour away.
Okay.
So, a little bit different when you're an adult as opposed to, teens and 20s. You want that
Yes.
comfort. And it was nice. Anyways,
Yes.
so this shirt she bought me, and I didn't, I'm like, oh, great. It's got, 2 Steps, one of my favorite songs, and, it's got Celebrate Will. Well, here's the funny thing. Whoever made the shirt, they added an
Celebrate.
R in there. So it's Celebrate We
I just
Will.
noticed that. If you
And
would not
most
have
people,
pointed that out, I would not have noticed.
that's the great thing. So most people will never even notice it. And I wore this shirt, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, when I gave my Toastmaster speech a couple weeks ago. And I wore this shirt, and, it's kind of like, why would you wear a t-shirt when you're giving a speech? You'd want to dress up kind of a business crowd. But once I pointed that out, everybody lost it. And,
Yeah.
it was nothing
Celebrate.
unlicensed merch.
I'm gonna say that now. Celebrate.
That's a great thing, is that Dave will never go away. I still was blown away by the fact that the Hall of Fame didn't let him in last year, or 2 years ago, I guess it was,
Mhm.
when he won the fan challenge.
Right, right.
Blew everybody away. You're telling me the world loves Dave, but they didn't, so that was crazy. And I was so happy this past year when he did finally get in, because they deserve to be in there. Because of them, there's so much other stuff that has happened, so much in music and life. And it's just such a great, they're just awesome. That's all I can
Yeah,
say.
totally
I don't know what
deserved
to
their
say.
place. No,
So
totally
I do
deserved
have
their
another
place.
really cool story for you.
I want all the stories.
Okay. So a buddy of mine, my buddy Dane, he was actually in Secrets, which was a band
Oh, I
that,
do know that that Carter was in well, actually, a few of them, but
yeah.
yes, that's a
So
trivia question.
yeah, so my buddy Kurt, who is a character in itself, Dane has always been a close friend of his. And so one time, and Kurt knew how big of a fan I was. So Dane was in town because he was the keyboardist for Clint Black. And so
Oh,
he's like, "Oh, I'm going to introduce you to Dane." So we went out. Dane was playing here in town with Kurt, and I got a chance to meet Dane. Now, Dane, him and I have become, really close friends now. It's been, I don't know, probably 15 years, maybe longer. But just an amazing, amazing guy. He's no longer playing with Clint, but he did stuff with Dolly Parton. He was Olivia Newton-John, musical director, just an extremely talented musician.
wow.
He's actually shared it, and they actually put a few of them on. I'll try and share one with you
Yeah.
of some of their sessions when they had the Secrets band. You had Leroy Moore was in there, not in this clip, but Carter Beaufort on the drums. Tim was in there. Butch Taylor was playing. I mean, all these guys in this band that predated Dave Matthews. So
Yes.
it's so cool to see some of that old footage. He's posted a few of them on Facebook. And so I look back at these and a few of the videos that he had shared. And it's just like, man, that's so crazy to see the guys playing together before they started the next band. And Dane probably could have been in the band, but just had other things that he wanted to do in his life
Right.
in terms of his family at the time. And it just didn't make
Hmm.
sense. But to see those guys so early on and how highly everybody talked about him then, to be
Yes.
able to create the mega band, it's like the best band out there with all these amazing players. It's really cool.
It would be really cool to be a fly on the wall in that time when they were sitting there talking about, what they wanted to do and to see if any of the things they mentioned eventually happened. I mean, I would like to think that all of their dreams came true as far as being able to share music publicly, and I think it's probably more than they could have ever imagined. I would think,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone starts a band and is like, "Oh, we're gonna be around forever and we're gonna have fans that follow us everywhere." That's
Yeah.
probably, I mean, that's what you want, not what you get sometimes. Not every band is successful, but this band has just blown through every challenge. They've blown through every decade and the fans are still just chasing them. If the band were to go to Antarctica, we'd be like, "Okay,
Right.
we're going to go to another continent. How cool is this?" And so we would just follow them down there blindly.
I would. I would.
Yeah, they have done a great job of keeping their fans. What are some of the reasons that they have kept you? What is it that keeps you going after this much time?
I think the biggest thing is, again, I don't go to as many shows as I used to. My best friend and I, we try and hit at least one show, if not two shows a year.
Yeah.
Gorge being the pinnacle. I want to go.
Mhm.
I've been 3 different times. I want to go maybe next year or the year after. Again, we don't even know how much longer he's going to continue to tour the way he
Exactly.
does. I hope he
Exactly.
tours this way for the next 10, 15 years,
That would be
but you
amazing.
never know for sure. And
Right.
so I love going and the feeling that you get when number 41 starts. Like literally on certain songs, I get tingling in my arm, I get
Mhm.
goosebumps. It brings you back to a certain experience, a certain time in your life, a certain show that you went to. And so it's almost, it's just an opportunity to to feel that way. You never know what you're going to hear, but you know that no matter what, the set list is going to be fire. It's still going to be amazing. You're still going to have a great time. You're still going to have an amazing time with the people that you're there with, the people that you're sitting around, whether you're on the grass or in reserved or in VIP. Doesn't matter where you are. And that's the great thing about a show is like just the feeling that you get. And that's why it's hard for my wife, even though she tolerates Dave, she doesn't love Dave. So she gives me that hall pass, if you will, to go to a show with
Yeah.
my buddy Brandon, my best friend. So we go to the show and have a great time. And we're not talking during the show
Right.
because we're just in the show, right? You're
Yes.
just sitting there, you're
Yes.
feeling it, you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Everybody's having a great time. And so that's really the feeling. And whether it's Shoreline Amphitheater, which is probably my favorite venue to go see a show at, or you go to the indoor ones like when I saw them at Park NGM here in Vegas last year. It's nice, but the indoor shows are just not the same as an amphitheater or an
I
outdoor show.
agree.
It's just
I
different.
agree. It is.
And so it's just great opportunity to just have fun, forget about life, forget about job, forget about challenges, forget about the crazy things that are happening in life, good, bad, or indifferent, and just embrace the positivity, the love, the happiness, the enjoyable time that you're having that night. Because who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? You
That's right.
just enjoy yourself.
So, of course, they're still putting out music, 2023 being the last album that they dropped as far as studio albums. Are you still able to connect with the new music just like you were with Two Step?
Not nearly as much with the new stuff as the old stuff. And mostly because, I have my, whether it's Pandora or, some of the albums that I have on my computer, I'll just play that kind of stuff. And I don't necessarily, like, my wife has Spotify. I just use the uninterrupted Pandora.
Yes.
I love the new stuff, but I'm always going to go back to all the originals, the first probably 3 to 5 albums, and then the tracks from up through, say, 2010. Those are
Hmm.
probably going to be the ones that I, gravitate to the most.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever turned a Dave Matthews song off. I don't think there are any songs out there that I don't enjoy. I just
Right.
gravitate towards the classics and the ones that were most prevalent in my life.
Yeah.
So, again, if you're at a show and God forbid you have to take a pee break, then it could be one of those new songs. But I would hate to be gone if I missed Two Step or I missed 41 or I missed, some of
Right.
these songs. So, you got to do what you got to do. And I love it all, but I
Yeah.
still do have my favorites. Yeah. Yeah. So one more story. I went to the Dave and Tim in Mexico a few
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And this was when my daughter was first born, but she was still, really tiny. So I figured again, my best friend Brandon and I went down there and, being at the Moon Palace all inclusive resort, enjoying the first night. If you told me I couldn't drink again, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. But we're in Mexico at an all inclusive resort. And so one drink turned to two, turned to three.
Yes.
And so by the end of the night, I had quite a bit that night and got through the first night show, made it back to the room. And let's just say everything didn't want to stay down that night. And that was the
Mm.
first time in probably 25 or it's been
Oh,
I,
man.
I couldn't even tell you how long it's been. Needless to say, I jumped out of bed to, take care of that. And when I jumped out of bed, I slipped on the marble floor
Holy shit.
and broke my wrist. Laying me
No.
down, I tried to
Of
brace myself,
course.
but I was still fairly intoxicated.
Mm.
And the next morning I woke up and I'm like, man, why does my wrist hurt so bad? But I
Oh,
was
no.
like, I'm not going to the hospital. I'm not going anywhere. I'm like, I'm here for Dave, right? So
Yep.
do Saturday night show, all good. Wasn't drinking, just, kind of just obviously just hanging out with a sore arm, whatever. Well, have you been to any of those
I
the
have.
weekends in
I've been
Mexico?
twice.
So
Yes.
a lot of walking, right? So within all of that walking for the first 3 days, I had a nice blood blister underneath my big toe.
Oh, my
So made
God.
it through the night. Everything is good. So go back to the room, got the trash can, put I think 2 or 3 bags in there. I'm sitting there with my arm in the trash can and the ice, trying to ice my wrist. My buddy goes to sleep, had towels on the ground, towel underneath I had it on there and was just soaking it. Well, lights are out. I'm just trying to be very quiet so I don't interrupt him. I get up. Well, apparently some of the water from that trash can and those bags didn't quite make it. I slipped again
No,
on the
you did
marble
not.
floor. I go
Oh,
down. He's like,
my
dude, are
God.
you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I didn't hurt my wrist anymore. He turns on the light and he walks around and there's blood dripping. It's like, what happened? I was like, I don't know. My wrist is fine. I don't see anything. The blood blister the ginormous one under my toe burst. So then
Oh,
there's
my
blood
God.
everywhere.
That's a
I'm like,
crime
you know what?
scene.
I'm like, look, I paid for the travel insurance. I'm going to take advantage of it. So they literally take us in an ambulance. We're like, are we going to end up in a warehouse with
Right.
federales or
Right.
what?
What's going to
Right.
happen?
So
Yeah.
30, 45 minute drive in this ambulance in the 1 o'clock in the morning, right? 1 or 1:30 in the morning. We get there. Now to give them credit where credit is due, they were amazing. And my bill leaving that hospital was like $1,500, where, here it probably would have been like 15,000.
Yeah.
Luckily, the travel insurance covered all that. It didn't cover my PT once I got back here, but it was funny. So, get that. They fixed up my toe, wrapped that all up, put a cast on my arm. Then, we ended up getting back to the hotel, to the resort at like 6, 7 in the morning, whatever it was, go crash out for a couple hours. Now, I didn't tell my wife what happened because I didn't want her to, get all worried.
Yeah.
So anytime we were on FaceTime, I'm keeping my arm down here. I'm like, oh yeah, everything's great. She didn't know, my mom didn't know, my sister didn't know, until we made it back to the US, it made it back to Vegas safe and sound. And then I was like, so by the way, something happened.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being on this show. Guys, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, how in the world did Alex get on the show? It's easy. I mean, it's just as easy as reaching out to me and us figuring out a date that works for you, works for me, and then we record, and it's just that simple. Do you feel like this was a hard thing to get through, Alex? Like if someone's thinking about being on the show and they're like maybe a little intimidated because you don't know me, right? Like I get that. Was it intimidating, and was it difficult process to get through this whole podcast thing?
Not at all. It was easy. And this is such an awesome and easy conversation to have. Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem, public speaking, interpersonally speaking, however. So this is, I've loved this, and we could probably talk for another 6 hours.
Definitely.
But at mercy of all the listeners, I wouldn't want to do that to them. But no, you've made this so easy, just such an easy, awesome process. I've had a great time over the last hour speaking with you. And, if there's anybody out there, we all have so many stories and so many different, how we got introduced to Dave, what it's done for our life, what it's done for those around us. It's always so amazing to hear everybody else's stories. So really thank you again. Today was amazing.
Absolutely. Well, no one does it the same. And that's why I'm recruiting every fan to be on the show. Put in your journey, your history with this band, just something to go back to when all of this is over, to really dig into those memories. And if you've recorded your story, you can go back and maybe remember some things that you would not have. And so documentation is everything. It's our way back to these years. And I've just been so appreciative of the hundreds of you that have come before you, Alex, and made that decision to jump on here and just share their story. They're all very different. Like I said earlier, if this is your first time tuning into this podcast, every episode is so very completely different. We are talking about the same things in general, but everyone does it very, very differently. So some are very happy, some are very sad, some are, in between. So if you don't like the one that you're listening to, then you can switch and go to any episode. There's almost 200. So surely you can find one that you can identify with. But it's just as easy as sending me a message on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, my email is very easy. Renae at thespacebetweenpodcastdmb.com. So you can always send an email as well and just say, hey, I'm interested in maybe sharing my journey. I would love to have you on. Lots of time to fill in the fall. We're spreading out these journeys and giving you something to listen to this fall, since our favorite band is not on the road. So guys, be sure to check us out on all of the socials. We're doing some big things this fall, so you don't want to miss it. You never know who's going to be next on the show either. It could be someone that you know, someone that you used to next to at a show. You never know. So stay in touch on all of the socials. We'll tell you who's coming up and when. And so guys, in the meantime, peace, love, and Dave Matthews Band. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you. I'm just putting this out there. Hopefully Dave comes and plays at the Sphere. So maybe we can get everybody out here. That would be an epic show.
So crazy.
So let's put amazing. all the feels and all the good juju out there that they get him to come play at the Sphere, because that show would be epic.
So good. Yes.
Thank you again. Today was amazing. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.